Welcome back into the Cowboys Report. Several news items on the 2025 NFL Draft to discuss on today's show. 2 new 30 visits being reported/announced. There's allegedly heavy interest in this particular back. Some Dallas Day, the local visit news to break down, and we'll discuss Tetairoa McMillan and his comments that went viral over the weekend. Before we get into all of that, Marshall Green, who's feeling the desperation of not having as much success as we do, said we couldn't get to 40 shares on today's show. Prove him wrong by sharing today's video for me on social media. So 2 new 30 visits. The year limited to 30. That's why they're called 30 visits. Official formal meetings with the Cowboys. Indication of interest or at least wanting to verify or take someone off a board for something. So noteworthy visits. Shavon Revel, the cornerback out of ECU, and Shemar Stewart, the edge rusher from Texas A&M. Let's begin with Stewart. He would have to be a first-round pick by the Cowboys. He would either be a trade-down scenario or stick and pick at number 12. But there are questions about him. For starters, the dude's a freak athlete. 4.58 40-yard dash at 6'5", 267. He's got 34-plus inch arms, a 40-inch vert, a 10.01 broad. This is everything you could want from a testing perspective with Shemar Stewart. That level of athlete is insane. How do you have 4.5 career sacks with that production? It doesn't make sense. It should not be possible. The pressure rate isn't even as good as what it should be. My comparison here for Shemar Stewart is Jadeveon Clowney. I think he can be a really good run stopper for you. They did a good job of that at A&M. The combination of the length and the first step is really intriguing. The man's got no pass rush plan. This is someone whose attack plan is let me run at the offensive lineman, which sometimes works. I mean, there's the rep against Ole Miss, whoever the right tackle is, where he just bull rushes the right tackle, knocks him into Jackson Dart, and there's no sack, but the ball floats out and falls incomplete because the lineman got bull rushed into Jackson Dart. There are flashes of it. He's just not consistent. He's not a finisher. That's why I like the Jadeveon Clowney comp, because Clowney is not a finisher either, but he's a freak athlete, helps against the run. I get worried when you start spending a first-round pick, a top 15 pick on someone. You got to start going to the, here's why he had no production that matters in college. He is a boom or bust round 1 pick. And kind of like Michael Williams, I think there are some similarities there. I hope and think the Cowboys would have better options than just sitting and taking Shemar Stewart, who could be the best player in the class, or he could just not end up materializing at all. So grade the potential pick of Shemar Stewart in round 1. It is the pinned comment on today's show, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. A, B, C, D, or F. Go grade that potential pick right now. Shavon Revel is next up here. That is the very talented ECU corner. Stop me if you've heard this before. The Cowboys have interest in a talented corner who's coming off an injury, or a talented player who's coming off an injury, and it could be a classic Cowboys pick in round 2. They love taking the injured or character guy in the second round because they had a first-round talent grade on him, and that might be Shavon Revel. By the way, the Cowboys team doctor, Dan Cooper, is the one who did his ACL surgery. Now, again, that gets overblown because the team doctor is not going to lie to other teams about where he's at medically. The Cowboys just trust him completely there. Revel is an outside corner. He was playing really well before the injury this year. He was on pace, I think, for a really, really impactful season. Doesn't miss very many tackles. I think he is a plus athlete. We just don't get the combine testing because, the medical stuff involved there. Some team's background there. He's got size you covet, the frame you covet. This is very much a Cowboys-style corner. It's the type of corner that Will McClay and this Cowboys team historically likes. He can get a little bit greedy at times, trying to jump routes. That's not necessarily the worst thing ever. The competition jump coming. Round 2 is where I have him graded coming off the ACL. He probably would be a first-round pick, no doubt, if he were fully healthy and played the way that he's mostly played over the course of his collegiate career. But the injury could drop him in the second round, which would make him the classic Blue Star special for the Dallas Cowboys. So we are now up to 5 reported 30 visits. There's Bashal Tutin out of Virginia Tech, Alfred Collins, a defensive tackle, Shemar Stewart, Shavon Revel, also Andrew Makuba, who we mentioned briefly earlier this past week, safety out of Texas. A lot more to come. There will be a lot more backs and receivers and everything else mixed in there as well. Still early in the process. We'll get more of those updates as they come available. We'll get to more draft coverage here, but first, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. The daily fantasy sports app is available in more than 30 states, including California, Georgia, and Texas. I also always advise the flex play, which Prize Picks invented, meaning you can get a pick wrong and still cash out. You can double your money, even if one of your picks does not hit. Jared Goff, less than passing yards. Travis Kelce, less than receiving yards. Jaden Daniels, less than rushing yards because, hey, those guys, Lions offense might not be as good. Kelce's not going to be as heavily involved as he ages. The Commanders probably don't want Daniels running quite as much. Go download the Prize Picks app today over at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS. Let's now move to some of the known Dallas Day visits coming up on April 4th. This is for local prospects, guys who played collegiately in the area, so like SMU, North Texas, TCU counts. Guys who went to high school in the area. So these are local visits, which is actually probably a pretty big advantage for the Cowboys. Sometimes leads to misinformation of they think it's a 30 visit. It's actually a Dallas Day visit. So Quinn Ewers counts as a Dallas Day visitor. NFL also allows you to kind of like not always have it on the same day. So I think Quinn's coming on April 2nd, I believe. Chandler Rogers, who played at North Texas too, now was last at Cal, which would be a kind of a camp arm. But you need someone to throw passes, right? Ashton Genty is also a Dallas Day visitor. That is a big one to keep an eye out for. Ollie Gordon out of Oklahoma State, also a reported announced Dallas Day visitor. Then there's Damien Martinez. We'll come back to some other names here in a minute, but I want to spend a little bit more time here on Martinez, who was a high school player in the area. The report that came out from Tony Pauline, which Pauline's hit and miss. It's worth mentioning, but a little bit of grain of salt sometimes there. He says the Cowboys have heavy interest in drafting Damien Martinez. Now, he reports that Martinez has an official 30 visit set up with the Dallas Cowboys, who, if they don't come with Ashton Genty in the first round, will target Martinez on day 2. Again, Martinez counts for Dallas Day, so I think there's some crossed wires on that front. But I think in that third round in particular, which is about where I have Martinez graded, that's where you kind of start to get some intriguing options. Martinez was a 1,000-yard rusher at both Miami and at Oregon State. He's got good size, runs with power. He's built, 5'11" and change, 217. Had really good production for Oregon State. Hasn't done a lot in the passing game and has really dropped too many passes. The 4.51 40-yard dash that Martinez posted was really good time for him because I was a bit worried about the top-end speed. But there are some similarities, and this is a high-end comp. I'm focusing athletically. Don't clip this and say I'd say he's as good of a player. But the size, the play style, the power with which he runs, some of the after-contact ability, the missed tackles too, there's some similarities athletically and even play style-wise to Marshawn Lynch. I think for the Cowboys, you want an early down runner who you can pair with Javonte Williams as your third down back. That actually makes some sense. So in the third round, which is where I think you'd probably take Martinez, would you be on board? D for draft, P for pass. Let me know in the comments section of today's show if you take Martinez. D for draft, P for pass. Other Dallas Day visitors, Andrew Henry, who had kind of a weird final season with eligibility stuff. Savion Williams out of TCU is another Dallas Day visitor. That's the freaky size guy that is kind of a weird gadget, like Cordero Patterson-esque, although he's way taller still. Cam Camper, Boise State, elite name, by the way. That's, again, a lot of these guys are kind of day 3 undrafted guys. Not that Williams is, but like Henry and Camper are. Craig Woodson, the safety out of Cal, is one of them. And then another reported one was Hudson Clark, the defensive back out of Arkansas. A lot of the Dallas Day visitors are like day 3 guys and UDFAs and often end up being UDFA signings, but Cowboys won't have as many spots this year. There are plenty more eligible players that will be reported, that won't be reported, that'll be there. Nick Harris is a great list out there. There's going to be a lot more than just the 10 guys, the 9 guys that we've mentioned previously, at least 9 in the sense of on April 4th with Quinn Ewers not going on April 4th, but that's besides the point. There's going to be a lot more guys there, I promise you. We'll have updates on that and all the NFL draft stuff right here on the channel. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV for more free Cowboys YouTube videos. Let's have the Tetairoa McMillan conversation then. He obviously went viral. If you haven't seen it, it's type in T-Mac on Twitter, like the first thing that pops up, or his full name, for his comments about football. Of note, from his freshman year, there's been a lot of misinformation out there somehow on a 20-second clip, which is insane to me, but whatever. From his freshman year, which I think is context to mention. Said he doesn't like watching football, like doesn't enjoy watching actual football games, doesn't like watching film / doesn't watch film on his own. Now, there's a lot of things to break down. There's really two parts. Let's begin with the doesn't like watching football stuff. That isn't actually an issue for me. It's weird to hear, but he is not unique in that feeling in the NFL. That is not a uniquely held opinion. Like, how do you guys think that Puka Nacua didn't know what division the Rams played in? They didn't know the Lions played indoors. Like, that's very common in the NFL. Curtis Martin, Bill Parcells guy, right? Jets running back, Patriot back, was like, yeah, I watched like 4 games. Not everyone actually loves watching the NFL. That's jarring for us, though, as fans. Because if you're 12 minutes into a Cowboys YouTube video, you love football. And there's no doubt about that. You love watching football. Everyone here watching this loves watching football. So it is jarring to hear NFL players, senior NFL players, say that they don't love watching football the same way. That's different. It's actually a bad thing, necessarily, though. Now, the film part could be an issue. I want to emphasize 2 things, because I've seen people say, well, he doesn't watch film, period. It's not what he said. He said he doesn't watch it alone. He said he watches it with the rest of the team. Now, that was also 2 years ago. Maybe his opinions have changed. We'll presume it hasn't for the purposes of this conversation. The prep work for football, the film, the practice, all the workouts, all that stuff can be a little bit like school. Look, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of NFL guys that don't like working out either. They do it because it's important to be good at what they do. You can like school, or you can be great at school and not like it at all. You can like school and be bad at it. That's how it goes. That doesn't mean he hates football or he doesn't enjoy football. That's not what he said. That kind of got twisted somehow. How a 20-second clip gets so twisted, I don't really understand. But we'll spend some more time on this. If you haven't already watched it, go watch it. We will not show it due to copyright issues. But are you out on T-Mac after hearing his comments from 2 years ago? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments of today's show. I am not out on T-Mac after a 20-second clip from his freshman season. In general, the hardest part of, I'll call it media scouting, is you don't get a real true feel for the person. The player stuff, the watching of film, evaluating the players, that's the easy part. We've got access to that. The access I get to T-Mac is what people who actually know him report and say, and combine interviews, which I had no red flags from the combine interview. Like, you don't get a feel for the person. Like, Justin Gilbert was a damn good football player. He just didn't give a shit and ended up not working out for him. I do care about the work ethic. You have to be willing to work hard with film study, with workouts, with all of it. And teams are going to ask him about this. They'll be able to ask him, like, hey, explain the comments. But McMillan never said he didn't love football. Somehow, not watching the NFL is not the same thing as I don't love playing football. Now, for me, if we get wind of other effort red flags, like, for example, if Dane Brugler drops his beast and he's got a note in there about, like, not a great practice player, or, some questions about what drives him. You're kind of running that with James Pierce right now, by the way. That's a red flag for me. And then you've got a potential pattern and evidence here. I'm not going to ever, outside of, like, criminal activity, I'm not going to let a 20-second clip, like, dissuade me from a player. If you liked him already, I don't think it should change your opinion. If you didn't like him, then this is probably going to be another tally in your column of why you don't like him. And that's fine. But I don't think that freshman year clips of, I watch film with my team really only, at receiver. My quarterback can't say that shit, but like my receiver, it's not quite a nothing burger, but it kind of leans more in that direction for me.